Welcome to Comic Book Radio. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. This is episode 94. It is Tuesday, October 17th. My guest tonight is Mandy Summers. We're going to be talking about variety in storytelling, characters, and genre. For those that don't know, Mandy writes a lot of different stories and a lot of different types of stories with a lot of different types of characters. So, finally, we shall have this conversation tonight, and she is here, waiting in the green room. So all you doubters, stop with the doubting. Chappie, what's up? Hope you're doing well. We got Asian O the Time Outlaw. Interesting. A second chance indeed. Second chance to catch a very fun show. Bear, hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. We got Metatron's Cube in the chat. I know episode 94, we're getting up there. 100's right around the corner. Ara Galenian in the chat. What's up, Ara? Frederick in the house as well. Looking forward to another great conversation about comics. Indeed. Sooner GM is here too. What's up? H is for Heretic. Hope you're having a great night. Dr. Mask in the chat, as well as Norin Rad. Turbo, what's up? Hey, what's up, Yan Zhao? Hope you're doing good. We got Mighty Joe in the chat as well. If anyone placed bets against Mandy tonight, y'all lost. Jake Blues, right there in the chat, as well as Grape Nuka Cola. Hope you're doing well, Grape Nuka Cola. Phil TMNT is here, along with Creators Outlet. Dr. Mass, just thank you for re-upping your membership. Appreciate it. Continue your stay at the Comic Book Lounge. Morb357, hope you're doing well. We got Cole Mueller here, along with Shrek PMC. Hope you're doing good, Jargonaut. Thank you for being here tonight. Spicer McLeroy, what's up, Spicer? Hope you're doing good. We got Johnny Slaction in the house. Yeah, you made it. Just in time. Just in time. Jay from Desolate Soul Studios is here as well. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. And Randy Scribner getting it right before I quit with the intros and the hellos. Without further ado, let's bring her on, right? It's about time. The woman of the hour. Miss Mandy Summers.
Hey, you guys! I made it! Look at me! I'm out here doing it!
You did. You made it.
I made it. So are you a Macho Man fan? I noticed
I love Macho Man.
Is that your favorite wrestler?
It's back and forth between Macho Man and Roddy Piper. Roddy probably edges him out a bit, only because I knew Roddy personally, too.
No joke, really?
Yeah. He actually, I got to know him, and we became fast friends when I hired him to be in the film that was based on my graphic novel, The Chair.
That is awesome!
And most of our conversations were not about making movies at all. He was a great dude, and he loved his family, and he wanted to just have all these awesome conversations about the business, picking my brain about being a comic creator. He was really interested in creative people and where their stories come from, and he loved his fans. We'd have conversations about that. But yeah, he was a great dude. Really great dude.
That is so cool. I've never met any of them. I mean, I've watched wrestling since I was little, but I never got to meet any of them. So that's really cool. That's cool. Yeah, I like Gold Dust. I think.
Oh yeah, Gold Dust. Yeah.
You took me seriously. Gold Dust, when they put him in with the 5 top, that guy, that tag team duo was like the best.
Roddy and Gold Dust had a good fight.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
I'm trying to think of that one. What year? You probably don't remember what year.
I don't remember what year. Yeah. It was at a WrestleMania. It was in the back of the place in the alley. And
okay.
It got pretty crazy, because Roddy almost gets run over by a car. Yeah, it was intense.
That the old school wrestling was good, like when Hogan threw a fireball, and then you had Sting coming down out of the Raptors, you know what I mean, with the baseball bat, and then the guy, I can't remember who they were, but like his dad had passed away. Like he really did. The guy's dad had passed away, but he was like riding. Somebody stole the coffin, and he's driving, and he's hanging on the coffin. And I can't. Was it Big Boss Man? Is that who it was? I feel like that's who it was.
I know Big Boss Man did pass away. I know that. I can't remember that though. Man,
it was crazy. It was crazy, but yeah, I like wrestling.
Yeah. I love like before it became the WWE. That was a lot of the WWF days was a lot of where when I watched a lot, especially on Saturday mornings and things like that. And so much fun. I got Hulk Hogan rocking wrestler sheets.
Oh my god!
From when I was a kid.
Did you have it wasn't My Buddy, but it was like the wrestling buddy.
Yeah, the wrestling buddies. Yeah. Oh, those are awesome. Oh man.
Yeah, those are cool. I used to give them like the leg drop, the Hogan leg drop and stuff on my bed. It was
Big Boss Man passed years ago.
Yeah, it's been a lot. Like I was quite young when that happened. So
yeah, years ago. Yeah, WWF, and I don't mean World Wildlife Foundation or whatever that is.
No.
All right. Love the wrestling talk, but we gotta have comic talk.
Of course,
now.
yes.
Sort of the same thing, though, in a way.
A little bit. Theatrics, right?
Mandy, before when you were going to be previously on the show, I was really looking forward to talking to you about this topic. So I'm so glad you're back for it, and I'm glad that you're here because I'm really interested into the scope in which you're telling your stories in all kinds of different genres, age ratings, that kind of a thing. Was that always your intention, that you wanted to tell a variety of stories?
I don't know if I went into it with that mind frame that I just tell stories that I love. Like when I get excited about something, that's the story I want to tell. And it just so happens, like when I started with Award the Wizard, that one, I wrote that with my daughter, I read it, I made it up telling my daughter the story of Award the Wizard. And that to me, because I already had so much already written where I was having to keep notes on what it was I was actually telling her every night. That one was like the easiest one. Plus I needed something I could actually draw. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to hire an artist. I didn't know what a fair page rate was. I didn't know how to do anything. And I'm a big believer in when you start something, you really need to understand, especially if you're going to be hiring people to do things for you. You need to be able to grasp every aspect of what you are asking people to do for you. So that one was easy. And then after that, when I did Super Dead, it was more of okay, they've seen that I can do, an all ages book. Now I want to do, I think at the time I was calling it my big girl book. I'm ready to do something, a little bit more, adult oriented. So, and then it just goes from there. Like now I'm just working off of ideas that, I've had for years, and now I actually have the opportunity to, get them on paper and, actually get it done. So, when you read and you write your whole life, you have these ideas throughout life. Like that would be a really cool idea for a superhero, but then what do you do with it? As a kid, what do you do with that idea? Now I can take all of those crazy ideas I had and make a comic book and share it with the world, which is really cool.
It's funny because I've talked to a lot of people on here where they're digging to their past as a kid when they had all these ideas for characters or stories or whatever, and they're honing in on them, they're focusing on them, and they're creating something as adults. Even myself, I'm not specifically doing it with a character, but the subject matter is stuff that I've always been interested in, with like King Cryptid. For you, when you were a kid, what was it about comics that drew you to comics? What was it about creating stories that drew you to that?
My brother was really big into comic books. He was really into comic books. And I don't know, I loved the pictures that went with the art. Because, like, a lot of times, like, even, like, I can remember looking at comics before I could even read really well. and I could understand what was going on just by looking at the artwork. And that to me was just, I mean, it brings writing and art together. So I don't know, I've always just loved that medium of, of the way it works. It's just they just play off of each other so well when you got the artwork and the story. So, and like I said, my brother was so into it. So, I did everything my brother was into on a different, like he's reading, like, I don't know, like he was reading like Preacher and stuff like that. I was reading Rainbow Bright. So, and the My Little Ponies comics. But every time he would go to the comic book shop, he would bring me something home. So I ended up reading quite a bit. And I just kind of, it's like, I don't know a world where it doesn't exist because they've been in front of me so long. I don't know a world where comic books don't exist. So
was there a time in your life as you're getting older, were you a teenager still reading or anything like that, or did you leave them behind?
It's off and on throughout, because when I was a teenager I was really into partying. So
that's why I asked, because a lot of people, I mean, even myself included, I didn't leave them behind, but I really cut back because I got more into music, sports, girls, that kind of a thing,
Yeah.
So yeah, other things take over in your time, but obviously they've returned.
Right. Yeah, it never left completely, ever, but yeah, my brother moved out, so I didn't have my buddy to talk comics with anymore, and stuff like that. So yeah, then I started getting into boys, and that was pretty much my main focus as a teenager. So, but I can't ever remember a time where I didn't read anything. So, I mean, even then, I wasn't going to comic book shops as much. I wasn't, instead of sitting at night reading a book, I was on the phone talking to my girlfriends about, how cute, Johnny is, or, whatever we were talking about, the newest makeup or whatever. So, yeah, I kind of, but I've done that my whole life. Through teens, I didn't read that much. And then I started again when I got maybe 19, 20, and then I stopped again for a while because they started kind of getting crappy. So
what time frame was that? Did you think that they were starting to get crappy?
2000, I don't know, 2005, 2006, I started noticing that it was kind of, I mean, if memory serves, that seems about the right time frame, because I know I was already married. So, yeah, just at a certain point, it just kind of got like, what? This isn't, either I've changed or they've changed, but regardless, I'm just going to go watch, Love After Lockup or something, and not worry about this right now. So
yeah, there definitely was a significant change, I think, at that point in time. That was around the point in time where I started giving up comics for a second time, and at least the mainstream side of comics, and then starting to look more into creating my own, because around 2005 was when I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just start making my own, and then 2006 is when Alterna came about.
Nice.
So yeah, so you're kind of taking me back a bit there too. But what was it about comic books that at this current point in time, let's say, I don't know when you started creating specifically or wanting to create, but what was it specifically about comic books that drew you back to create in that medium? Because you could create in so many other kinds of ways, shapes, and forms, but what about that in particular?
So so again, I didn't have any idea how I would even make a comic book throughout my life, but I bought my daughter. They came out with a new version of Rainbow Bright, which was the very first comic book I ever read. That's what got me, as strange as it is, a Rainbow Bright comic is actually what began my love for comics. So when they started a new one, I thought, what a perfect way to bring my daughter into comics, because I'd already been reading her stories every night before she went to bed anyway. So I went into it with, I'm going to read this with her. So we got to, I don't know how many issues it was. It was like 4 or 5 issues. and I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't very good. It was quite bad actually. But I was reading it anyway. I'd already accepted the fact that comics really just weren't what they had changed.
What about it wasn't that good to you?
So the storyline was incredibly slow. I don't know how much you know about the character Rainbow Bright, but the storyline was absolutely incredibly slow. She, in the 5 issues that we read, she was Rainbow Bright for one panel.
Wow.
One panel, not page, one panel.
Who put it out?
Oh my God, who was it?
Was it IDW?
It was IDW that put it out. One panel. And so it just kind of, like, when I expected them to do the, the origin story of Rainbow Bright. I expected her to be Wisp at some point, which is her story. And then the world's dark and gray, and then she finds the belt, and then she can use the powers. But they didn't do that. They were so busy building up the Rainbow Kids. I feel so silly saying the names. So they were so busy building up the Rainbow Kids.
Take the rainbow back.
That it just, I don't know. It wasn't Rainbow Bright. And there were parts in it that were a little bit even woke at points, and I can't tell you what they were now because I can't remember, but I remember I didn't know at that time. I had never heard the word woke. I didn't know that until I got on social media. That I just knew that things were getting crappy, and I was either, like I said, either they've changed or I have, and I don't know which. So yeah, it wasn't Rainbow Bright. It was, the artwork in it was beautiful. It was beautiful artwork, but the story itself is not. If you were a fan of Rainbow Bright, you're going to read that and be like, what is this?
I'm going to have to look that up later and see who was the writer.
I wish I could tell you, but they were names. It ain't nobody that is like a. I mean, somebody may know, you know what I mean? But it wasn't a name that I looked at and I'm like, oh, I know them. Oh, yeah, they did so and so. I know a girl did, I think, the artwork on it. A girl named Jennifer. I think that was Jennifer something did the artwork on it. 'Cause the artwork
that narrows it right down, man.
Right down, right? Jennifer did it, obviously. But yeah, it did not feel like it was Rainbow Bright. It did not even remotely. Her character, when you grow up with a character and they have personality, they have, when you're reading, if you read something or watch something long enough, you connect with their personality, their tics, their flaws. They changed all of that with Rainbow Bright. They changed every aspect of it. She wasn't the same sweet, it was more, I don't know, it kind of felt like girl power a little bit, like, I can't think of any example of what I'm talking about, but if you read it, you see what I mean. Like, because I'm reading it to my daughter, and I'm like, all right, this is a little, yeah, all right. So it was just a little bit,
That's interesting. I'm familiar with the character through, that was American Greetings that came up with that character, just like with Care Bears.
It was, yes. Mm-hmm.
And, I loved the Care Bears when I was a kid.
Did
and
you
I thought,
really?
Yeah, I did. I had a Funshine Bear, the yellow bear.
I have that in my bedroom.
Yeah,
I actually have that.
Yeah, I think he's still at my parents' house, but I loved the Care Bears when I was a kid. I thought they were kind of interesting because they were all so different too. They all had different moods and different reactions to certain things, even though it was all about get together and have friendship and this stuff. When I was a little kid, I'm like, oh, cool. Like bears talk and they look like different colors.
Yeah,
and there's like that weird guy that's after them. Same thing with like Smurfs and gummy bears and all that kind of stuff. But I get what you're talking about. That's the whole thing with storytelling and character development in general is the feeling of a closeness by understanding and getting to know the character. And then all of a sudden one day when they change drastically, it feels like a friend who's no longer the same person.
Exactly. Like, yeah, you connect with these characters, especially if if you follow something for a long time, you become, it's almost kind of like, I mean, it's not really comic, but kind of like what they did with Daenerys on, Game of Thrones. You watch it this whole time, and then now the very last 2 episodes, that's not even the same character. Or, Peter Parker, now, he's been in love with Mary Jane for 40 years, and now all of a sudden, I can't remember if they turned it.
Oh, when they did One More Day, I was already checked out before that happened, but when I heard about it, I was like, they're getting desperate.
Yeah,
that's a weird move.
Yeah, it's like, you grow to love these characters, and then they just kind of, I don't know, crap on them, and it's just like...
Yeah, it's strange. It really is, and I find it's even stranger when you talk about how they reboot and they remake things like that. It to me, the whole purpose of using the brand entity would be to carry it on, because it's recognizable. You're trying to harp on the nostalgia factor, but if the nostalgia factor is being squashed and you're just kind of rebooting it and then saying, oh, well, it's for modern audiences. Because I get, well, we see that, right? With Batman 66, it's a campier tone, but then we see Batman 89, which, by the way, guys, Batman 66 to Batman 89 is the equivalent of right now to the year 2000. Sit on that for a second.
Oh my God! No, don't
think
tell
about
me that.
Think about the world. It's like a different planet from 66 to 89.
Yeah.
Right, but 2023 to the year 2000. Technology, man, it's killing us.
Yeah, it really is.
We're like stuck in a loop.
It really is, and now we get the fun of what AI art to come to boot with it. Where now you can.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
And so, like, I remember, I don't remember specifically as a kid as much of the backlash, but I do remember some of it. I was only like 5 or 6 at the time, but looking back, there was a lot of stuff about that 89 Batman movie being too dark and all these other things. And even when DC killed off Robin, people were like, how can you kill off Dick Grayson? Because no one really had kept in touch and didn't realize it was Jason Todd. But this is a whole different aspect of how they're appealing to an audience and how storytelling is changing. It's
right.
But you have to really be able to pick up on what's occurring. And you also have to have always had, I feel like, a irreverence for what had come before.
You really do need to respect what has already happened, and like what they're doing now is just, I mean, they're butchering the characters. There's no other way to say it. They are absolutely taking characters and pushing. It's like they are so hyped up on pushing whatever narrative or agenda they're trying to, social thing. And I mean, and they'll say, comics have always been about politics. It wasn't quite as in your face as it is now. It was more subtle.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so to get into that for a second, it's always strange to me, the examples that are picked, because they'll go all the way back to when comics were blatant propaganda.
Yes.
Like, you're talking about, like, 40s, 50s comics. To be like, they were always political. And I'm like, do we really want to go back to that time period? The 40s and 50s? Is that, like, the greatest time period in the world for people or something?
Right, World War II is the time frame they prefer to. Of course, during that time, it was World War II.
Yeah.
Everything was political at that time because, again, it was World War II. But then look at, other times, and no, it has not been that political. Not to the level it is now. And it's not, I mean, they do get political, but it's more about these odd, off-the-wall...
it's generally the politics of the story at hand.
Right.
They're not really, I mean, they all loosely mirror the real world in some capacity, because they're all based on some kind of kernel of truth that exists in our reality, and that's the only way you can actually have some of these stories resonate. If you're going to have stories, even the stories that take place on an alien world, still have oddly similar personal and interpersonal relationships and politics to mirror Earth. We have no idea what the hell would go on in an alien world. They could be doing and thinking things that aren't even conceivable to us.
Right.
So all of it kind of goes back to that sort of thing, but there's a difference between it being in the story and it affects what's happening within the realm of the story, and then it's being used to prop up
exactly
a current day narrative.
They're really bad at the fantasy aspect where, I can accept that in fantasy that there are politics. I can completely, yes, okay, great. What I don't understand is when they take American politics and add it to a story that's supposed to be on planet Xenon 87627Z. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden, these aliens are upset because of, I don't know, because they're homosexual and people are not accept. It's like they mix true life with the fantasy far too much, to the point it's like, all right, what are we talking about here? What is this really? Like, how is this? You can't make it any different. That's really what we're gonna stick with. Like, when I do fantasy, I really do try to keep it fantasy. I try not to bring up anything that could possibly be from this world, to a certain extent. I try to keep it different, you know what I mean? I don't try to bring up, like, this is the year 4092 on this planet, 30 light years away from Earth, but they're still dealing with the exact same political problem we're having here on Earth right now. Is it that? It's like, what? What are y'all doing?
Well, what's even worse is when the language is used and it's like modern current day slang.
I know. Oh my gosh. That drives me crazy. That drives me absolutely insane. Especially when they use like the SJW buzzwords with it. It's like, oh my gosh. Who hired you? Who hired you, and are they looking to hire? Because I could take this job, and I don't think I'd have to work very hard. I feel like just, I could just get paid for nothing.
Something tells me you wouldn't want that job.
No. You know how long they would tolerate me at one of those places, seriously? I'd be there like 30 seconds. I'd walk in, they'd go, no, you're going to have to go. They wouldn't tolerate me for even 5 seconds.
Fritzy, I had said irreverence, in meaning that you would have to have irreverence for the subject matter in order to be comfortable with extreme changes to it. So Mandy picked up on it as having that you need to have reverence and respect for it. So yes. So just in case there was a, but that went hand in hand. That's why I didn't bother correcting you, because it went hand in hand with what I'm trying to say anyway. Spicer, the chat's buzzing tonight, so I want to get to them for 1 second. Spicer, thank you for gifting 20 memberships. Appreciate it, man. Everybody that's now a member of the channel, feel free to use those emojis and have some fun. And I want to give a shout out here to Mysterious Mystery Man. We had a problem on the last show. And so he says, Pete, forgive my past actions. The questions were never for you, only for guests. Anyway, no more excuses. I'll respect your wishes on channel conduct. I appreciate that, Mysterious Mystery Man. That means a lot. Goes a long way. And apology accepted. TC in the chat as well. What's up, TC?
Hey, TC. How are ya?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's man, this is a big topic. Let's go back a bit. Let's focus more on you, because we could have another 2 or 3 hours.
I like talking about me, so we're good.
On this, yeah, good. Okay. So, for your stories, in particular, what was the first one that you did? Was it Wart the Wizard?
It was Wart the Wizard, yeah. And the reason I went with that one first, again, was because I really didn't know how to do everything, so I needed something that I could draw. And I figured a story like Wart the Wizard, it was written with children in mind. So my artwork, though, is not very good. I mean, it's gotten better over, just hanging around with all of these amazing artists. You kind of pick up little tips and tricks and stuff. But I was limited on the first Wart the Wizard with what my artwork could actually do. So I went with that one first, and again, it was already all but written pretty much. I didn't really have to, I had to, pick and choose out of my notebooks which aspects I wanted to add into it, but it was pretty much already done just from, the goofy stories I was telling my kids. So it worked out with that one. So yeah, I started with Wart, and honestly, I think that one is like, I love the character. It really, that's the book that really pulls in everything that I loved as a kid. This is my, I've got a lot of references to Sierra games. I don't know if you played a lot of Sierra games growing up with like King's Quest and Leisure Suit Larry. And then I did a lot of RPG games growing up. So it's got a lot of the RPG aspects in it. And yeah, now I did do a redo of it where Peter came in and did the artwork. My Peter came in and did the artwork for
Gilmore,
it.
right? Peter Gilmore.
Yes. He came in and did the artwork. So he did a redo of it with his art, which, mine's good though, but no, it really is, it's silly, it's fun, and yeah, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just, and writing characters like that is very fun to me, to be able to just, any aspect, because in the world, there's really nothing that could, I don't have to think, well, could he survive that fall? If I made this happen, could he survive? It doesn't matter, because nobody dies in this world. So, but they do, but they just come back as either a zombie or a skeleton. So, but they come back all, but they do come back. So,
Wait, so no one dies? They all come
Nobody
back as zombies?
Yes. Well,
that's going to be a world full of zombies.
Well, the villain of the book is Grave Moss. So his storyline was he was this very, very, very powerful wizard. But then he died. So when he came back as a skeleton. Now, what does every wizard need? Is a wizard beard. That's how you can tell spell smells.
Obviously.
You know what I mean? It's about the beard, you guys. So he comes back and he doesn't have his lustrous wizard beard anymore. So he grabs some moss off of his his tombstone, and puts it on. So he's wearing this. He's got this beard of like moss and twigs and leaves and stuff that he's wearing. Because he's and like throughout the book, people walk in on him, and he's like, "Hold on," because he doesn't have his moss beard on yet, but he can't grow one anymore because he doesn't have any skin. So it's a tough deal for him, but so he's back, and Wart just ends up really making him mad through it's a mishap that it happens, but he ends up really, really making him mad, and now Grey Moss is after him over the orb that he found. That I don't know how many spoilers. I mean, I guess it's okay to go spoilers.
You don't have to give any spoilers if you don't want to.
I figure people would probably read it.
You're going way more in depth on this than I thought you would have, but if you want to continue, please.
I like talking about it. So yeah, the orb actually ends up being a dragon, a very, very, very special dragon that Grave Moss would really like to get his hands on. So in the second book now, he's got his friend Lexion, who's a little baby dragon that's also like a collector, like he steals stuff all the time. So he's a little bit of a thief, but he's still a cute little dragon.
Like a klepto dragon.
Yes. Yes. And I did use a lot of with the Sierra games, through Ward the Wizard, he's finding items throughout the book and then uses them in really weird ways, which is exactly what you would have done in like King's Quest, where you find a ball and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this gold ball? And then you find out that the gold ball, you throw to the frog. You drop it in the frog pond, and then the frog comes out and you kiss him and he becomes a prince or whatever. So throughout the whole thing, he's finding all of these weird items and having to use them. So it's a fun book. It's a really, really fun book, and it is absolutely fantasy, and it's something you can read with your kids, and then also as an adult, especially if you did a lot of RPGs and stuff like that, and games like World of Warcraft and EverQuest and stuff like that. You're gonna get a lot of like, oh my gosh, no she didn't. So yeah, there's a lot of that in there.
Oh, very nice. What was the next book that you did? Did you stick to all ages, or did you get outside of that?
No, the next one I jumped to was Super Dead. So I went from one kind of extreme to absolutely the other way, because Super Dead has kind of like a boys Spawn type feel to it. So it is about a superhero that basically dies, but he doesn't. But he's saving his city. Superheroes are a thing, but they're not like everywhere. It's not like the world is just overpopulated with superheroes. So he gets into a battle with a villain and crushes the power thing he has on his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And makes him absorb all of this power, but it's dark and corrupted, and so he goes into the sewers until they can find a cure for him because he's starting to kind of lose his mind. So he goes into hiding, basically, hoping that the people, that he just protected the entire city will find him a cure for this. So he finds out that, no, they pretty much forgot about him. And he's been down in the sewers eating rats. So he has and he's lost his mind over time. So at one point, this great hero, Captain Valor, who was just amazing for the city. Everybody loved him. He was like just the best thing ever, has now been forgotten and replaced and has lost his mind and has become a new person, basically, which is Devour. And he does have a taste for human flesh a little bit. So, now he's running around. And he does have powers, but they are all very, very dark. Like, he can raise people. It's a very, like, necromancer type powers. He can raise people from the dead. Mm-hmm. He's got, he has this evil shadow that's kind of with him. That's also, like, telling him what to do and kind of more warping his head. Now, I haven't revealed whether or not that's just in his head or if it's real, but it's there for him. So,
what was the inspiration for these characters?
They're ones I've always wanted. That's just a character I always thought would be really cool to do, is a character that's more like a necromancer, I mean, if I had to pick, like, a character that it would... it's like a mix of The Boys and Spawn. So those were kind of, but I always wanted to do a dark character like that. Like a character that is, really, really messed up. And always, and it was really fun to play with that aspect too, because a lot of, usually when I write a character like him, it's going to be like, the villain of the book. But he's not. He's not going to be. You know what I mean? And I tried to write him to where you could kind of feel for him in the fact that, he's lost his mind. The city he's protected, has absolutely completely forgot about him. And he's been replaced. And the new guy that replaces him is a complete jerk. Like, he's not a good guy. Like, he's a hero and everybody loves him. Oh, he's great and we love you. But the reality is Omega Atlas is... gonna resemble Homelander a lot. Like, everybody loves him, but he's not a good guy. Like, he's out for himself. But again, I've already announced it. So this world also connects into the world of Gymshock. So these two worlds are gonna actually in the next Gymshock I do, these characters are going to collide and meet up. So
interesting. So you're creating like a universe.
I am with between those two. Yes, that's going to be because they just work so well together that what I mean. That it's why wouldn't you when they work so beautifully together? And the world in Gymshock, Mackenzie's world, is the exact same. The superheroes are disappearing. So yeah, it's the whole thing.
I just want to let you know you don't have to spoil any details.
No.
I'm
like 100% sure everything I'm telling y'all right now is stuff that I've already told. If you
okay,
I like I said, you get me going, I'll talk. So I am a little bit like Shane like that. I'll
it's like a wind-up toy.
Yes, I'll spill.
You just keep going.
I'll spill some beans over here. So yeah, but that was my second one, which was it was really fun, and that was the first one that I worked like on a full book with Peter, which was really, really fun to actually have have an artist that I could actually, when I'm writing, storyboard it out. And then, so I don't know how everyone does theirs. But like I do, I storyboard it out.
Hold on. Before you get that's you're answering a lot of questions that I'm not asking just yet. It's
sorry.
Okay though. But before we get to that, an excerpt has a question for you specifically about a Wart the Wizard game. Wants to know if it's ever going to be completed.
Oh yes, I'm actually still where I've taken a little bit of a break because I'm in fulfillment mode right now. But yes, before I launch Wart 3, that is going to be given away to all of you guys for free. Just a little fun something for you guys to go and play. It's almost done. And I'm going to be honest, y'all see how I kind of ramble and kind of go off? That's kind of what I did in this game. Like, I meant for it to be like a little 30-minute thing that you play. This game has gotten so daggone big, I can't. I mean,
30 days. 30-day
yeah,
quest.
It's like Skyrim over here with this little game. So, yeah, no, I promise you guys, when I launch Wart the Wizard 3, it will be done by then. And like I said, I'm going to give it away to all of you guys for free. You'll be able to just go and download it. And the only thing I ask is when you do it, I want y'all to tell me if you like it. That's all I ask is, and be honest. Don't butter me up and give me a big head if I don't deserve one. So just let me know if you like it, and that's all I ask. But yes, I have, again, I haven't worked on it in a little bit, and when I go back, it's going to be like, oh, crap, where was I? What was I doing again? Because, yeah, I got into fulfillment mode and starting with my next book with Peter. So, but yes, it is coming, sir. So.
All right, there you go, an excerpt. Okay, so I have one question before you get into the storytelling approach in your process.
Uh-huh.
For you, what's the biggest thing that you find really difficult or fun, I guess even, about crafting all these different kinds of stories, characters, the different age ratings? You're playing in a very large sandbox.
Yes.
So I imagine it's fun, but also very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing it, especially when I have always been a jump from one thing to another type person. Like, I'm into this game, but now I'm into this one, but now I'm into this, but now I'm into this. So I've always been like that. So I think the hardest part is pulling myself out of one book and into another. Like, when you go from, say, like a Wart the Wizard. It's very lighthearted, it's silly, it's childish, it's, kind of crass humor in a way, you know what I mean? To a very serious book, I will sometimes have to read what I wrote and then be like, no, that's too much like this. So, but I do enjoy it because that has always been my personality. It's just to hop around from one thing to another all the time, except for men. I don't do that. But other things, I just hop around from one. You got it. I hop around from one thing to another all the time. So yeah, it lets my brain. I don't know. I feel like it helps my writing because I'm constantly. You know what I mean? I'm not just sticking with one thing. I'm constantly jumping around. It keeps Peter sharp as well. When I take him and I'm like, all right, we're going to do, I'm going to put you on Wart, which is simple art for Peter. And now, all right, I'm going to put you on Super Dad. All right, now you're going to do Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter. So I need your high detail art on that one. So it constantly keeps us on our toes. And I think it sharpens our skills, honestly, doing that. So, yeah, but I do love doing that. Like, if I sat down and just wrote one book the entire time, like if I had done Wart the Wizard and never swapped, I'm afraid I'd get burned out on it. I need that creative freedom to hop from one thing. Like, I can be doing laundry, right? Just sitting on my bed, folding laundry, and I'll think of 3 book ideas while I'm sitting there, and none of them will even be remotely close to the same thing. So that's just how my brain works. I never stick to something for too long.
Well, I really thought that's what you were going to say. So my follow-up would be when you're getting in that headspace, right? When you're getting in the headspace of you're writing an all-ages book, but now you're going to write your next book and it's going to be a horror, mature, kind of a thing. Are you ever finding that you're going back into some of the all ages stuff, or vice versa, and
Yes.
you're crafting a character that's a little? It just feels the tone isn't there, and you kind of have to really edit it or scrap it even
Yes,
sometime.
yes, that definitely. The thing I can remember doing that the most with is after Super Dead, and I was working on Wart 2, and so in Wart 2, like Grave Moss he's still the villain. He's the villain of the book, but there's the dragons now,
Mm.
and there were some of the dragons, because each dragon, like, kind of is the protector of its own realm. If you think of it like, almost like you would Mario Brothers, where there's worlds. It's the same thing in the Wizard. There's different worlds, and each world is protected by its own dragon. That's what makes Wart's
Oh.
dragon so special. Is it's a portal dragon. It could port him to all of these different worlds, where anyone else who did not have access to a dragon like that, they're stuck in the world that they were born in and live in. They can't try. That's why Grave Moss wants it so bad, because it will allow him to take over all the worlds and not just.
It sounds like it would be a
Brightmore.
really fun video game, like an
Yeah.
old school Nintendo
Yes,
video
yes.
game.
So yeah, I noticed there were a few when I was rereading. I noticed there were a few things that I wrote for one of the particular dragons that he comes off that was a little too dark, honestly, for an all ages book, and I had to go back and scratch that. Like, oh no,
Scorching up a little too many people.
maybe he shouldn't be, taking his immortal soul in this one. Maybe scale it back a little bit. So that was kind of my thought into that is, yeah, maybe scale that back just a wee bit. So that's usually what it is I have to go back to the all ages ones. It's not like I'm good at writing adult stuff. I am an adult. It's simple for me to just, and I cuss in my books, so there's no, you know what I mean? So that's simple for me. It's when I have to try to write, like, would I want to read this to my son when he was 5? Maybe not. Maybe that's a little too much for,
Yeah. Do you have an editor that you work with, or are you writing and editing?
I write and edit. I do, yeah. I have Pete read, like, does my proofreading just to make sure, like, hey, are you, this is what you're trying to say? But other than that, I pretty much just do that, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing with independence, is that a lot of the time, if they don't have an editor or somebody that they could bounce something off of, I mean, at least you're lucky. You've got him. I'm sure you've got other people you could bounce this off of and go, is this appropriate or not? But sometimes when people are doing this all completely alone, and there isn't anybody to tell them, wait a second, this might not be appropriate for this audience or this story.
Yes,
because I've read things where I'm like, are you sure this is all ages? that beheading would counter that.
Right. Exactly. So, and in war there are like deaths and everything, but they're always goofy. Like a guy gets like kicked by like a derpy horse. You know what I mean? And it drags him off into the sunset.
It's like Looney Tunes style.
It's like Looney. Yes.
Yeah.
It's very Looney Tune like with the way it happens. So. Yeah, but no, I do the editing, and then, Peter reads over it too. Obviously, as he's drawing it, he reads over it, and that's one great thing I love about working with artists like Peter, who I have been with for this long, is we can really work well. You know what I mean? We have that thing where we work so well together on everything that, yeah, it's amazing being able to work with the same artist like that.
Are you comparing what you're writing for in terms of what has existed in the past? So what I mean by that is this. So when I'm writing something for a specific age or so, I remember what I used to read at certain ages, or what was on TV and I used to watch, or whatever it was that was aimed at, whether you were 8 or 10 or 14 or whatever. Are you getting in like maybe that headspace even to be like, would that have been appropriate for? Let's bring up like Rainbow Bright again.
Right.
You know, would that have been appropriate for that? You know, me reading Rainbow Bright when I was a kid, or you know, that kind of a thing.
A little bit, but I think I use my own children more as my reference for what's appropriate. What would I have been okay with my children? Like if I like a Wart the Wizard, I wanted it all ages. That means, you know, all ages is all ages. So when my daughter was 3, would I have been okay with her seeing it? You know, now she's 13, so you know, I can kind of up it. So I think mostly with stuff like that, I actually use my own children for my, you know, what would I as a parent have been okay with? Because I mean, things have changed. I'm not trying, like, things have just changed so much since we were kids to what kids are. I mean, I remember, like, you never heard a cuss word unless you were watching, like, HBO or Cinemax or something, right? Now they, you know, there's a little bit more cussing, even on live TV, I'll notice. I mean, not that I'm saying it's right or that it's wrong, but they, you know, they are influenced differently than we were as, you know, for me, like an 80s, 90s kid, they're a little bit, you know, they play games like Five Nights at Freddy's from the time they're 5 and 6. They're, you know, so
we're like, oh yeah, that's like Chuck E. Cheese, right?
Yeah, for us, that's
and you
Chuck
have
E.
fun and it's nice and everyone has a good time.
Right. If they would have showed me something like that when I was 5 or 6, you wouldn't have got me near an animatronic.
But you know what's crazy though is that conversely, there's a ton of subject matter, entertainment, whatever, that's aimed at kids that is unbelievably dumbed down.
Yes.
You know, compared to like a lot of the stuff from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that had very mature themes. Like Batman the Animated Series, I think that just gets put in prime time today, and kids aren't necessarily supposed to watch it. You know, that kind of a thing. Because there's a lot of things in there that are thematically way more mature. Even though there's not like gore or strong language or anything like that, you look at even a lot of those kinds of things that play out, and certain things that are aimed at kids. There's almost no true all ages kind of thing anymore that is like, you know, it used to be called family friendly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even you have to go and watch like Bubble Guppies or something, which is really, I mean, because
you say Bubble Guppies?
Yeah.
What's Bubble Guppies?
It's a kid's show. That comes on Nick Jr.
Bubble Guppies.
Yeah, they sing some songs. They, you know, my toothbrush and me and.
Okay. What age do you think that's aimed at?
Toddlers.
Toddlers.
2, 3, 4. You know, preschool kids.
Yeah. Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
I used to like the count. 1. I always liked the count on
or
that
just
show.
the Sesame Street was loaded with just irreverent referential humor too, where they were just so sarcastic to each other. It's amazing.
Yes. But yeah, I pretty much use just my own children for the most part and try to keep it, what would I, because I'm not 100% like, I don't want them to hear anything horrible, but at the same time I don't want to scar my, like, I'm not sitting the 5-year-old down to watch The Exorcist tomorrow, you know what I mean? So I do try to find that level, and I'm, you know, of what is okay. And again, like I've told when I was selling this book, I did tell people, you know, if you're buying this for your kid, read it first. I can tell you there's no bad language, there's none of that. But before you read it to your kids, I do suggest read it and make sure that you are okay. Because, I mean, as parents, that's what we have to do, you know?
Absolutely.
You have to, I mean, I even have to check, like, Disney shows now. I mean, because they've gone so woke that I'm having to, like, Muppet Babies.
Go back to the 80s Muppet Babies.
Right? Oh, it's so bad. But, yeah, so that's pretty much what I do with them.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, so before we get to your storytelling process and what that's like and how you create that and work with your artist, Josh Lamb has a question or comment. Jack the Ripper Vampire Hunter is great. Highly recommend. And then we also have another question about that as well, about Jack the Ripper. Where was it? I can't find it, but it's there. Someone was asking about wanting to talk about that book. So that book is, I mean, I would have to say, and I'm not going to claim to be extremely familiar with every single thing you work on, but I would have to say that book has got to be a very harrowing experience for you as the writer in terms of adapting that story and that individual into the character that you're making.
It was because you're going back to a time frame, so they don't talk like we do now. And it's England, it's British. So I did. Luckily, Peter is British, so I was able to. Hey, what? Because like I wouldn't even say like I'll cut you a slag, and I'm like, what? He's like, that's British term, and they would have used that back then. So he helped me a lot with just with a lot of the terminology from back then, because he is British and I'm not. So that one it was really fun to write, though. It was really fun to take. I mean, because everybody has heard the story of Jack the Ripper. Like you'd have to live under a rock to have not know about Jack the Ripper and what he did and everything. So to take that and twist it, like, okay, well, what if how can we take this horrible man and turn him into the protagonist of the story? How do we do that? And yeah, I mean, Peter came to me with the idea, and as soon as he said it to me, I was like, dude, oh my gosh, we have to. How do we not do this? So, but yeah, no, this one was, it was really fun. It was really fun, like, doing my research and learning about the Highgate vampire, which is a real thing, which is something I had never heard of. I don't know if you have, being American too, but I had never actually heard of the Highgate vampire. But yeah, Peter was telling me they were out there literally with news crews out there. Yeah,
they were trying to
interview, there were vampire hunters and everything else, and I was like, wow, that would be really cool. So I had to do a lot of research on this one and also get the feel for the character, I mean, the person that Jack was, because even though, he's hunting vampires in this, we still tried to keep it very true to the nature of Jack the Ripper, where, he's writing taunting letters to the authorities, and, just that mind frame that somebody like him would have had to have done the things he did. So, but no, it was really fun. But that one, thank God I was working with Peter with that one, because yeah, there was terminology when I'd be like, okay, how would they have said that? Here's what I want them to say. What term would you have used for this? And then he could, tell me the term. So
when you're doing research for that, was that quite the experience?
A little bit, because you really have to delve in. Like, everybody knows the basics, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I really needed to get dates. I needed to read enough about him to get into the mind frame, of the character. Poor Peter was having to research, going and look at what things looked like what did this street, because we kept it even to where the streets that they're got on are the streets that they were got on. So, there was a lot of research on both of our parts for this book. But yeah, you start going into the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories of who did it and stuff like that, which is why we kept him masked, because there's so many conspiracy theories. We didn't want to put that out there, so we wanted to keep him masked up. So the question is always out there because that's kind of the fun of it, right? Is who was he? You know what I mean? Who was Jack the Ripper? So we did decide to keep him masked up, just to keep that mystery going of, it's been so long ago, and still today people argue about, was it this guy? Was it this one? Was it this one? Was it this one? So yeah, we kept it up in the air on it. But I'm so glad you guys in the chat liked it. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah, they all seem to really enjoy it. Absolutely. See, we got a question here from Jargonaut, and then we'll get back to that writing process stuff that I so rudely cut you off about 20 minutes ago. Question for me and Mandy, and this is from Jargonaut. It says, what classic comics, be it Marvel, DC, Image, etc., inspired your current or past comics? Man.
You want to go first? Or you want me to?
I guess I'll go first. I said it the other night. Claremont's run on X-Men, especially with John Byrne, and then Claremont's run on X-Men was very long, and then it went into Silvestri, Jim Lee, etc., and then a bunch of other artists too in the works with that. That was a huge impact on me, along with Len Wein, Swamp Thing with Bernie Wrightson, and I could go on, but yeah. Mandy, what about you?
Probably McFarlane's Spider-Man run, Liefeld's New Mutants. I loved a lot of the 90s Bad Girl comics. I liked a lot of those. The Darkness, Witchblade. I mean, they're, all of those have probably, inspired me to what I'm doing now. A lot of those. And then some of the even kiddier ones like Rainbow Bright and, Jim and stuff like that, stuff that you guys probably are like, oh my god, that's not a real comic, Mandy.
Did you say Gem?
Yes.
Like Gem and the Holograms?
Yes. I read some of those when I was a kid too. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife loves Gem and the Holograms.
My brother would bring those home to me. So yeah, those are probably the ones that inspired me the most. And now I just, kind of go off what I got in my old noggin up here, so.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens. You kind of accumulate all this knowledge of various things, and then they work their way slowly but surely into some of the things you're working on, combined with life experience and new things you're into and everything else, and out comes a story and characters and whatnot. Little side note that you might enjoy. I met Samantha Newark, who's the voice actress of Gem and the Holograms, at a convention, and I got some stuff from my wife signed and everything else, but she was super, super nice, and we had a nice 10-15 minute conversation after the convention and everything, but very, very nice.
That is awesome. That is really cool. The next convention, well, I guess it's going to be Chicago. Hopefully they're going to have some comic book people there that I could actually go and meet, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sounds really awesome. I want to meet people. I've never met a celebrity, so.
Well, yeah, we have a couple of good conventions over here where people have showed up, and it was interesting getting to actually be able to talk to some of them. Mark Goddard, who just passed away recently in Lost in Space, Major West. He was super nice too. I talked to him for like 20 minutes before a convention was started, and he was just picking my brain about comics, telling me about like the big stack of comics he used to have, and he gave it away like like 20 years ago or something, and he had all these old classic issues of various like war comics and sci-fi comics and things like that. But he was a really nice dude. But yeah, he had passed away recently, just a couple days ago actually.
Oh, and Captain Nunchuck's got me on that one. He's like, you work with Del Keough, Mandy. I'd say he's a celebrity. He is. Yes. So, yeah, I guess I have met a celebrity in comics with Dale, so.
Poor Dale. He's like, what about me?
Poor Dale has to deal with me all the time. So, definitely poor Dale.
All right. Back into your storytelling process, your writing process, specifically when you're working with an artist, and also even when you're doing stuff on your own. Actually, before I get started with that, we just hit the hour mark. How much time do we have tonight?
I could probably go another 20 minutes or so.
Okay, all right. So that kind of process when you're writing, what are the biggest differences for you? First of all, what's your approach for both? And then what are the biggest differences for you when you're doing something on your own as opposed to when you're working with someone else?
Gotcha. It's about the same whether I'm working with somebody or whether I'm doing it myself. I pretty much kind of stick, once you have something that you're used to and something that works, I try not to change formula very much with it. So I start off with making a storyboard and trying to figure out the allotted pages. Like, if I'm trying to hit 48 pages, am I trying to hit this many? Can I move it? What can I do with that? So after I set the pacing of the book and get it storyboarded, I do something, I don't know if everybody does it, but I actually panel it out. I go panel by panel. very, like, I give Peter, I would give him like very descriptive, like, shot angles, and this is what I want in the background, this is what, you know what I mean? Like, I am very meticulous with my writing because I need to see it. So as I'm like, I need to see, like, how I'm gonna do it to make it all fit, because you hear me rambling, right? Can you imagine me trying to write something? You know how many pages I gotta cut? I mean, because, like, this, I can't do a 300-page book over here, so I'm always having to, like, scale myself back a little bit, like, okay, this could not be needed, but this needs to stay, but maybe not the, you know, so I do it like that. And again, I'm very meticulous with what I have Peter do with the panels. Now I will tell Peter, Peter and Fernando, both of them, I've been pretty, like, I'll tell them, like, here's what I need to happen. This is where it's at. This is where I need it to happen. Now I want to see what you do with it. Like, I won't be that specific, just because there's times where when you're working, you see it in your head clear as day as the writer, and you send it to the artist, but the artist sees something totally different than what you see, and usually that combines and makes a really beautiful panel and a really beautiful book. So a lot of times I love how it becomes something greater than what I originally imagined. So, you know, I'll tell Peter, say, all right, on page 3, panel 5, I'm going to need this character fighting with this character. I need it to be snowy and dark. Go. And just let him, and then sometimes it's like, but most of the time it's, this is so much better than I thought. Like, even in my own head. So that's usually how I don't know if everybody does, if you do it like that, but I'm very meticulous with breaking it down panel by panel and telling the artist what I want per panel, but still letting them have the freedom to play with it a little bit, to build their own thing into it. So
yeah, I mean, I used to do more of that, but it was also because at the time I was working with more people who were relatively new. So if I gave them the script I give the artists I work with now on King Cryptid, if I gave them those scripts, I wouldn't have felt confident that they could actually find their way around them. Because on King Cryptid, I actually put scenes together. I just tell the scene of the story that's occurring. I rarely give panel breakdown. If something's a splash page and I want it to be an emphasis on that for emotional impact, I'll say it. If there's a specific dialogue that has to be zeroed in on from a certain character, you know, we have to have a panel where this is a focus, you know, this is the emotion, I'll say that. But most of it is just kind of like reading a storybook and reading scene by scene, page by page, and then the artist goes and they do whatever they got to do with it. I don't give them any dialogue. I don't really give them much of anything other than that. And then I kind of retro script around that, because I kind of already have the script already in my head. But me putting down the dialogue and whatnot, it would hinder what they're going to put out artistically, and I don't want that to happen. So,
right, well, exactly, because, you know, it always ends up being, like, 99% of the time so much better.
Yeah, because they're going to do better than what I'm going to direct them to do.
Right, yeah, like, yeah, so I see you're a little bit like me on that, but I like to give my artists the freedom to. Can you imagine, like, with those last 4 pages of Gymshark, if I had told Dale, like, all right, Dale, here's what I want from you, sir. Now it's like, here's what needs to happen. Make it beautiful, Dale. And then I just sit back and let him go. I just told him what needed to happen and just, you know, let him go with it, because, you know, I know what he's going to do is going to be fantastic. So,
and do you get back a progression? So, like, thumbnails and then pencils and things like that, and then you can, like, approve of it. And
yeah.
Not
with Fernando, because Gymshark is the first book I've done with him. I did do it that way. With Peter, not so much. He doesn't do that much. We did with the first little bit, but we work together so well now that it's not really, like, he's not going to ink, but he will pencil. You know what I mean? He'll send me the pencils, but he's not sending me, like, Fernando did, where he's sending me just, like, the sketches, like, you know.
Yeah.
He's actually sending me pencil pages, and all right, Summers, what do you want me to do with it? You know, I can't do a British accent, but that's what it, you know what I mean? So, that's it just depends on how long I've worked with the artist. Peter and I have now been working together for 4.5 years.
Wow. So you guys developed an understanding at that point.
Yes, absolutely. Where Fernando and I, you know, it was our first book, so it's a little, and I'm sure over time I like to keep the same artist if at all possible. I love having, because I'm friends with my artists too. Like, I'm actually buddies with them, and we talk, and you know what I mean. So I prefer to keep, you know, we get that little camaraderie going, you know, so we can. That works better for me, anyways. I like working with friends, so. And you know.
Well, it's good when you can have that, you know, because then they can kind of finish your sentences in a way.
Yes.
Storytelling, speaking.
Yes, exactly. So. Yeah, it just depends on the artist. Like, again, Fernando, yes, I would want to see, you know, every aspect as it goes forward, because I don't want him to wait, you know, spend a lot of time working on something, then maybe like, oh man, dude, I'm gonna need you to, this ain't gonna work, scratch it, you know, where, you know, Pete pretty much gets it, and if he doesn't get it, he'll call me and be like, hey, what do you mean? What do you want me to do here? And it's like, why don't you listen to me? So it's just, you know, it just depends.
You'll be at each other's throats soon enough.
Oh yeah,
Soon enough. One last question, and then we'll work towards wrapping up the show. As far as your stories go, with creating your plots, your characters, all that kind of stuff that goes into it, the conception of the idea, for you, what is the easiest part for you to come up with, and what is the most difficult part?
The easiest part, honestly, is their personalities and the worlds. The world building for me seems to be quite simple. And personalities, because once I use a lot of like inspiration from people that I know. So if I'm writing a character who, say, has a really bad attitude and just isn't a very nice person, it's so easy for me to think back to that girl in high school that I absolutely hated. And there we go. This is, oh yeah, she'd do this. And you know what I mean? So it's really easy for me to go back in that. And the world building has always been quite simple for me, just building the world that they live in. Because once you have it in your head, like, okay, I want something dark and kind of crappy and gritty like Gotham, or I want something, you know, beautiful, and yeah, it's easy for me to build off of that, because there is so many things you can pull inspiration from on those. So that would be probably the easiest for me. It's just to pull from, you know, personalities of people that I know of, you know. Like I said, if it's a bad character, a villain, I can think back to a girl in high school I didn't like and tell you exactly how I think she would handle a situation and write that down, no problem. So
just don't name that character after her. You never know.
Right?
Although what is that? I think Wes Craven named Freddy Krueger after a bully. I think that's the story
joke.
Anyway.
No joke. Oh my gosh. And then the hardest for me is fitting everything I want into the story. That is, I struggle with that all the time, to actually be able to just fit. You know, when you're a writer, you have so much you want to say. You have so much you want to tell. And no matter what, I'm always having to cut back. You know what I mean? I'm having to, okay, I'll say that for book 2. Because it's...
Yeah, you don't write, you rewrite. That's like the cliche.
Right. Yeah, fitting everything. There is my struggle, because I will, like, I mean, Ward the Wizard 1 was 90 pages, and I cut back, y'all.
Wow.
I had to cut back a lot. And
I didn't know that the book was that long. Wow.
Yes, it was a 90-page book, and I had to cut back. It would, like, I think when I did a total page count, before I cut back, I think it was at like 145, 48 pages or so. It was ridiculous.
Holy
it was like,
smokes.
I gotta cut this back some. I got to. So I scaled it back, and again, which is probably for the best, because I can't imagine me trying to draw these dragons. You know what I mean? That would have been, it would have looked like a dog, is what I'm saying. It would have. It wouldn't have looked like a dragon at all. It would have looked like a derpy dog.
It would look like Falcor.
It would have looked like Falcor, yes, my luck dragon.
Yeah.
I loved that movie. That was one of my favorites when I was growing up.
It would have looked like a dog. Man, oh man. Mandy, what is down the line for you? What's coming up?
So my next book is going to be Super Dead again. We're back on Super Dead that Peter and I are doing. He is already working on it now. And then after that, I think we're going to go... we're kind of up in debate on whether we're going to do Wart after that, or if we're going to hop into Gymshark 2. So it's kind of up in the air, but definitely the next book I'm going to be doing is the next installment of Super Dead. So we can start tying in, Devourer's world with Mackenzie's world. So, yeah, really excited about that. So that's going to be the next one. I am in the process right now. I just ordered the books for Jack. So if you guys backed Jack, the books are on their way. For Jack 2, that is. The books are on their way, and they will be here, pretty soon. And then I will start fulfillment on that one. And once I get a little portion into fulfillment, I'm probably going to go on and launch Super Dead and get it just going while I work on fulfillment. And then I'm going straight into fulfillment on Gymshark as well. I think Dale has like page and a half left. I don't want to speak out of term, but I think he's got like a page and a half left to do. And then I will start fulfillment on that book as well. So,
do you handle fulfillment personally?
Yes. I do all the fulfillment myself. I'm like a helicopter parent with these books.
I hear you.
I'm not bashing anybody that hires. I think that's great. I'm just.
I get it.
I'd be a nervous wreck. So it's just, I know it's done right if I do it. So
yeah, and then if there's a mistake, I'm like, okay, I screwed up.
It's me. Yeah, that was my fault. So I pretty much do all fulfillment.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, even when we were doing distribution through Diamond, it drove me nuts to see how some of the books would arrive and. So I love being able to do it. Put on some music, put a movie on, whatever it is in the background, and just you do fulfillment. And it's kind of like a meditative experience, at least for me anyway. But yeah.
It is. I play music, or I'll watch some old movie that I've seen 100 times, so I don't have to be fully, engaged in watching it. I can, just listen to it in the background. Like I'll put on Sin City or something and let it just. Play in the background, or Lord of the Rings or something I've seen a million times, and just let it go. So it's funny you're bringing up Batman 89, because that was the one I was watching the last time I was working on fulfillment, was Batman 89.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, that's another one I've seen like millions of times, so I didn't have to.
Very quotable movie.
Yeah, it is very.
Movies aren't really that quotable anymore.
They're not, but they should be. They absolutely should be. Like, this town needs an enema. You don't hear good lines like that no more.
Never rub another man's rhubarb. Who the hell even knows what that really means? I think Nicholson just went for it.
I do too. I don't know with a lot of his stuff in that if it wasn't just Nicholson going nuts.
He's famous for just going for it and just saying whatever comes into his head, and he's like, if they don't like it, they don't need to like it. But I'm gonna say it.
Exactly.
Mandy, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on here. Yeah, no problem at all. Anytime. We'll have to do this again in the future.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Because again, I like to talk about stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and you're always doing something. You always got something down the line, new books coming out, new stuff that you're making, all that good stuff. So we got to connect again.
Yes.
Everybody in the chat, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate you guys being here. And again, Mandy, thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks.
All the best for you. Before we go, where can they find you?
So yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel. It's Mandy Summers. I'm over on Twitter with the Wizard, so you can find me there. Mandy Summers was taken on Twitter, y'all, and I'm trying to bump that girl that ain't even checked her account in like 40 years. But I'm still working on it. But Wart the Wizard over on Twitter and Mandy Summers over on YouTube. And you can find me on Friday nights either on my channel or Shane Davis's channel. So don't forget to go sub over there as well for the Baller Side Show, where me, him, and Dale, we kind of drink a lot and talk smack. So come hang out with, I know. So come hang out with us over there on Friday night, you guys.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. If you like the show, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. We're super, super close to 3,000 subscribers. We might have actually hit it tonight. We were just 3 away when the show started. Maybe we hit it. Who knows? We'll see. Either way, thank you guys so much for being here. Your questions, your comments are always appreciated. And I'll be back tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern with Vaughn Coleman. And, yeah, it's my first time talking to Vaughn, so I'm interested in what he's up to, what he's all about. But until then, everybody, have a great night and an even better tomorrow. See you guys soon.